It's looking more likely that John Schneider is going to be back with the Toronto Blue Jays, a Ross Stripling update, and are we still in on the Ohtani sweepstakes? All that and much more coming up on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside Nick Gosse. Now, I've been away for a couple days, something personal, but I'm glad to be back, and what a great way to be back, as some exciting news is around the corner for the Toronto Blue Jays here.
Yeah, welcome back. But yeah, there's lots of news that I guess broke the past couple of days, and we're just gonna go ahead and cover all of it. I mean, let's just get right into it. The first bit of news is Schneider returning as manager. So on the podcast yesterday, Shai Davidi, who I guess he's a pretty reputable reporter, basically said that he believes that Schneider will be returning. It's very likely, and that if they do end up interviewing other managers, it's a sign that they don't think Schneider is their guy. But yeah, he basically said that he should be returning. And following that, the next day, because this was yesterday, today this report came out. Now, we don't know how reputable the source is, but it got some traction, and the guy has a few followers, few hundred. He basically said, "Heads up, Jays fans, the Toronto Blue Jays will be announcing a 3-year extension for manager tomorrow." So it's seeming likely that tomorrow we might be having a video on the Schneider extension.
Yeah, that would be ideal, and I guess that guy is a lot more reputable than another source we saw floating around on Twitter. We're not gonna name drop anybody here,
No.
but that looks a little bit more legit
Yeah.
than the other one that was reported. But I think John Schneider's earned this opportunity. He had a great showing in his 3+ months with the team. I mean, you can't judge him based off 2 postseason games, and I think expectations were just set a little bit too high.
Yeah, and especially it's the first time ever, obviously, managing a MLB playoff game. And I mean, we kind of knew that Schneider was going to be probably going to get extended. There's a few rumblings, Kevin Long, we had the video on, some other things like that, but all signs are now pointing towards him, being extended tomorrow. And if it is on the 3-year term, I don't mind that at all. And I guess we'll have a full video covering it tomorrow if it does happen. And I kind of got ahead of the news here, but I'm happy with it. And really, it's something that needs to be addressed early so we can just move on with the off season.
The only thing that's tough about giving him a lot of term is that they're still paying Charlie Montoyo, and that's like that's the downfall of it. But and again, if you do extend him for 3 years, what are you saying? Is this like a 3-year window for this core? And if they don't get it done in those 3 years, are you gonna fire John Schneider? Like, I don't know. I think the ideal scenario is give him 1 year, show that he can do it again in a full season, and then you go from there. But does the manager want to take a 1-year contract? That's the thing.
Yeah, and really, I'm sure there's other teams, or at least Ross Atkins probably knows better than we do if there's other teams who would take him up, or at least interview him for the role. I think 3 years is kind of, it's not a 5-year, 6-year thing. You kind of can cut your losses if you end up having to, kind of like the Montoyo thing. And at the end of the day, it's not our money. So I don't think it's not super expensive either. We don't know the terms of the Schneider thing, but I think it's kind of like a medium risk kind of contract with really not that much risk, because realistically you want to give him at least next year and even one more year after that, and then if he starts it as bad, you only have 1 year left on the contract anyway. So I think it'll end up working out for everyone, and there's really no one else that's going to come up. I don't think that would be better for the job given their current team.
I think he's earned it. Like I said, I mean, this is his team. He came up with a lot of these guys, and despite what some people like say in the comments that we shouldn't really trend towards the fun atmosphere, or we should have a drill sergeant as manager, I don't think we're in that day and age in baseball. I think you need to have fun. It's a game. It's a long season, and the last thing you want is your guys to not buy in and not respect you.
Yeah, and Matt Chapman said it right after the playoff loss that everyone respects him in there, and they want him back. So clearly, at the end of the day, as much as we sometimes hate to admit it, the front office knows better than we do, especially regarding coaching and stuff like that. So I'm fine leaving it in Ross Atkins' hands for that. And if we see that tomorrow, then I'd be happy with it, and we'll have a full breakdown of everything tomorrow. But I guess let's move on now into the next topic for today, which is a little Ross Stripling update. Now, obviously, I don't have screenshots for this, as it was in a podcast. You can watch it. It's at the letters. That's what the podcast is called. Ben Nicholson-Smith and Arden Zwelling usually, but with Shai Davidi filling in. But it's a pretty good. I mean, they have knowledge of they have inside knowledge. So Shai Davidi basically said, which is kind of surprised me and Peter talking off camera, that he doesn't think they're going to offer Stripling. I think it's 18 million for his qualifying offer because he thinks that since Stripling will probably take it at 18 million, it might be a bit too steep, and maybe he's expecting some Ross Stripling regression.
I don't know about that. Yeah, maybe he will regress over a full season in the starting rotation, but I still think you got to give it to him just because he's so reliable, and you know that he's going to go out there and throw strikes and give you a chance to win. He didn't give up many home runs. He gave up a lot of contact, but a lot of ground balls, a lot of soft contact. I think you got to give it to him. And a 1 year, $18 million deal, it's not the end of the world. We saw what it did for Marcus Simeon when we got him a couple years ago. It turned his whole career around.
Yeah,
Now,
you're right. Yeah.
I think you do the same. I think you do the same thing here.
So I think what the I guess what the question is, and I was thinking about this a good bit. So 1 year, 18 million. If you don't end up taking that, you have to have a replacement like lined up already for like a good replacement. They brought up Chris Bassett, who I'd be fine with. Kind of similar. I'd be fine with because if they like in exchange for I guess giving up Stripling's 1 year or whatever, if you sign a different pitcher that is like is proven, then I can stomach it a little bit more. But why not get both? Is kind of the other thing. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Especially if you don't have anything lined up, you just take the qualifying offer or extend him for like 3 years, 42 million. I wonder how much the Kikuchi and other contracts like that are in the back of their mind now with the extra money that they are paying players who really didn't perform. But yeah, no, I agree. You gotta give him the money. But if not, get someone like Chris Bassett or someone equivalent. And he did also say that obviously, like I just mentioned, if they don't fill it in, or if they don't re-sign him, they're gonna try to fill that in with a better replacement. So
Stripling had a great season, and after a guy has a great year, you got to pay the guy.
yeah,
You can't expect to go penny pinching and try to save a couple $1 million here. Look, it's not our money, so it's easier said than done. But at the end of the day, you got to reward the guy for what he did, and it's not like he's gonna like command a 5 year deal or a 6 year deal. It's a 1 year deal. It's show me if you could do it again, and then you get the long-term deal.
yeah, and I mean, he was basically the MVBJ of the
He
year.
was.
We also had to we'll have a video coming up sometime soon of probably after the World Series of like the awards for everyone because I know a couple people were commenting that. But like you can make an easy case that he was the most valuable like player, at least unsung hero of the year. So it kind of and he liked the clubhouse there, and I would hate to see him go for nothing. Obviously, we'll see what happens. I think they either re-sign him to like a three. That's what's speaking to me. I think they re-sign him for like 3 years. That seems like the Blue Jay thing to do. So I think that's probably what they're gonna do. But at the end of the day, like don't let him leave for nothing.
I'm confused here. Do they not want to give him the qualifying offer, or do they just not want him back at all? Like, what's
So
the deal?
I think from what I gathered from the podcast is that, well, it is just Shaw's reporting. I think they probably re-sign him either way, but I think it's that they're worried, not worried, but they're 18 or 19 million is a bit steep for I guess Ross Stripling production, and they'd rather spend that money on someone like Chris Bassett for like a longer term kind of thing. So
Like
that's
the term we're looking at is probably Kikuchi type
yeah,
money here. 3 years, 36. That would be perfect for Ross
yeah, and
Stripling.
I think Ross is probably going to command a little more, but yeah, around there, and I think their mindset might just be that like if we're not going to get Ross, we'll put that money into someone. I guess maybe a bit more proven in the sense of Ross had a couple of volatile years, but we'll hear lots about that from the in the off season.
Now the next thing I want to talk about is the catching situation, and it's an embarrassment of riches in the backstop for the Toronto Blue Jays. They have three MLB level, three above average catchers, and one All Star caliber catcher. I'd even say top three catcher
Yep.
in the MLB in Alejandro Kirk. Now you have a ton of holes in your roster, and to plug one of them, you're gonna probably have to trade one of them. Now, that's what our Ben Nicholson
Yep.
Smith and Shai Davidi were saying in the podcast. There, you're gonna have to get rid of one, but who's it gonna be? Who do you think
So yeah, I know you were out yesterday. We had a video on this yesterday, so I had a full solo video now. I did mention that my takes are definitely different than yours in this department, but I guess shout out to that. You can go have a look at that if you want a full breakdown on this. It was yesterday's video, but yeah, I think what they do is probably trade Gabby for prospects or for pitching, sorry, and then stick with the Kirk and Jansen thing. But I could also see him trading Kirk because obviously he has the most value, getting a left-handed bat and a starting pitcher. Again, check out yesterday's if you want a full breakdown, but it is good to get your opinion. I guess you were kind of on the anti-Kirk trade train, so I didn't. I mentioned that in the video that you're not the biggest trade Kirk guy.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not. I don't want to trade Alejandro Kirk for a couple of
The
reasons
Manoa
that,
thing is also mentioned
yeah,
there.
I've mentioned in a couple past videos. Because if you're trading Kirk, you're trading Manoa's catcher. You're trading one of his best friends on the team, which I don't want to do because I want to keep Alek Manoa around for as long as possible. I think the most ideal situation, you'll probably get the less value, the least amount of value for this guy, but it's Danny Jansen. I think you sell high on him, and you can't really bank on him doing what he did again because he missed time with injury and he had a bit of a shortened season, so his numbers were a little bit inflated. I don't think he'll do that again. I think you got to trade him for maybe a couple bullpen arms or one of your lineup needs and let Gabby Moreno catch more.
Yeah, I think that's probably it's one of those. I don't think they actually trade Kirk unless something like crazy pops up in the pitching department. They probably trade Danny, get a decent starting pitcher, and go from there. I agree with the trade Danny while he's high thing. I just don't know how much confidence they have in Kirk's long term catching ability and I guess the present ability of Gabby calling games right now. But it's something that we're definitely gonna have more conversation on because it's probably gonna happen here over the next few months.
Yeah, and it just makes you wonder who could they possibly get for all three of them. Like you try to break it down, not all three at the same time,
No, no,
but
no. Yeah, go ahead.
you just wonder like what can you get for Gabby Moreno straight up? What can you get for Alejandro Kirk straight up? What can you get for Danny Gent? It just makes the mind go crazy.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of, it does make the mind go crazy, and it's going to be an interesting topic. But I guess we can bring into the next topic here, which is kind of segues into it, an Ohtani trade update. Now, it would obviously take Gabby plus everyone. We talked about that a few days ago, or I did on the solo, and it would take tons of people. And then people in the comments were saying, the 1 year, it's only a 1 year rental. In that video, I was under the assumption, like I was assuming that they would extend him. They wouldn't just trade and have him for 1 year and let him go. It wouldn't be a Kawhi situation. I was under the assumption it was an extension. Like once they trade, they had an extension in place. But there was a Ohtani. Just we'll touch on this briefly. Basically, Shadavidi said that the Blue Jays are probably not going to trade for Ohtani. Not really their kind of thing. They have other needs to address. Now, could that change? Maybe. But do you have any quick thoughts on the Ohtani situation, or do you think it's just a pipe dream?
Yeah, they have a lot of needs, but I think Otani addresses
Both
about
in
three
one.
of them.
Yeah,
Yes.
left-handed bat. Yeah, hitting power. Yeah.
Like it's just yeah, he's the perfect player for this team. He's the perfect player for any team, really. But yeah, it is a bit of a pipe dream because Jay's farm system is not really too great. It's more middle of the pack.
Yeah, it would take, I think I mentioned on the video, like it would take Gabby, Ricky Tiedemann, Bo, and they'd probably ask before Bo, they'd probably ask for Manoa. It would be a whole. Again, we'll have tons of videos on that, but we don't need to get into the whole rabbit hole of this. But yeah, just a quick Ohtani trade update. Probably won't be coming to the Jays. If there is any other news, we'll break that down immediately. And this is the final thing. This kind of broke. This was actually after the. I added this in last minute because it kind of broke late today. The Gold Glove Awards. So the finalists were named, and I have a graphic that'll show two of them, and then there's another like three of them which came up after. But you can basically see here. So Matt Chapman is the finalist for third base. Vladdy's a finalist for first base, and then we have Jose Barrios finalist for pitcher, Jackie Bradley finalist for outfielder, and Whit Merrifield as the utility outfielder. So
Mhm.
good for them. I'm happy. I think Vladdy and Chappie are the two that you know, Vladdy really deserves it, I think. And Chappie, Chappie does every year.
Yeah, Chapman is kind of a lock
Yeah,
in that scenario there, especially considering the two other names that are over there. So I think he's got that one locked down. And what a great trade! We've sung his
no,
praises
yeah,
so many times on this channel that it would just be nauseating to keep doing it again. But Vladdy's got some competition at first base. Anthony Rizzo is pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good defensively, and he had a bit of a resurgent year for the New York Yankees. So I don't know. I think it'll be a lot tighter than you think. It's nice to see Whit Merrifield up there also. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Shout out to Luis Arias. What a year he had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Chapman wins it, and it's a coin toss for everyone else. But Rios got there, which despite his horrible year, I guess well deserved to him as well. I'm
He's
happy.
always there.
Yeah,
He
he's a
gets
great
there
fielder.
every year.
Great
Yeah.
fielder. And then Jackie, I'd like to see him back next year, but uh, maybe as maybe you don't need Jackie and Tapia and Zimmer. Hopefully we make a couple
Yeah.
upgrades, but it is good to see him there. And I don't know, it was a good piece of news for the end of the day.
Well, Jackie Bradley Jr. doesn't really play enough
Yeah, it was weird.
to warrant a outfield spot on there, but he's great defensively. We know what he does, and hopefully he is back with the team and gets a full season, just like John Schneider. And we're gonna get a full season next year as well. We're gonna be starting from the top.
Oof.
We didn't get to do that this year, but really looking forward to it, and it's really been a blast up to this point.
Yeah, I'm very excited for a full season. We joined with like a month left or something in the season, and it's been great. But I want to see a full season under the belt. Plus, because we'll be covering all the off-season stuff. Speaking of that, we are on the road to 1K. We're getting closer and closer to 500, which is the halfway mark. So if you're watching the video now, hit the subscribe button and like and do all that stuff if you feel inquired. But you want to take it out, Peter?
Yeah, you guys have been doing unbelievable. Thanks again to Nick for getting us through these past couple days. I was not able to join him. I really would have wanted to, but he knows what was going on. So he's been holding down the fort as he does so often, and I just love doing this. And
It's
we'll be
great.
back tomorrow with another video. So thank you
Every
so
day.
much for watching.
See you tomorrow.